Thank you so much for being here for various celebration of life. We have Maryann that's going to come up and say a few words.
Can everyone hear me? Yes? Good afternoon and welcome. Mallory, Kelsey, and I are welcoming you all here this afternoon to this very lovely spot in Stanley Park, where a park we're very enjoyed many walks and picnics and drives, and I think you would have approved of the venue. Yeah, you would. And it's fitting to celebrate a life well lived here among the trees and greenery that Barry so enjoyed. So let's celebrate together with what Barry and I teach us. And Mallory and Kelsey will be back on the program to speak to you later. So, Barry's love of life. Sorry, I'm just going to calm down. Barry's love of life, his kindness, generosity, and delightful humor connected him to everyone he met, and he genuinely cared about people. He was a man of varied talents and interests, and amazingly skilled with numbers and patterns, and that translated into a love of music and architecture. He loved the game of cards and racquetball and badminton and watching tennis tournaments. And Barry was competitive, yet a collaborator, and knew how to encourage the best in people. And he knew how to tell a good story. And I'm sure you've all heard the Jack and Jill story. When I first met Barry in the fall of 2006, it was to interview for a contract design position with Red. And we had arranged to meet at the Starbucks on Robson and Thurlow. And I'd never met him and had only spoken via email and telephone. And I'd asked how I would recognize him. And he said, "I'm tall, dark, and handsome." And I'll be reading the Globe and Mail. So when I arrived at the appointed time and searched for Barry, I immediately recognized the man behind the Globe and Mail. Our first date was dinner at the Bayshore on the patio to watch the Canada Day fireworks that were out on the Burnaby Art Inlet on July 1st, 2007. Fireworks. And our dinner was inadvertently crashed by Ben and Ayrann, who had strolled out to get a better view of the fireworks and were equally surprised to see each other. We went on to have many years together, Barry and I, expanding family relationships and friendships. He welcomed my son and daughter into his family, as he did my parents and siblings, and niece and nephews, and grudgingly our 20-year-old cat, Kira. He eventually grew to love her. In fact, he taught her to sit on command for treats. His Yorkshire directness, tempered with varied kindness, was refreshing and liberating, as was his joy of life and laughter. And together, we explored the world through our friendships, our design work, and travel. Sorry, I lost that. And experiencing the arts, music, and laughter, and fine foods, design, museums, wine. We collaborated and shared and evolved, and I am so very grateful for the life we created together. In his last weeks and days, the days when his pain was less and his energy good, we would sit together for hours in our coastal sanctuary, looking out at the Salish Sea, and talk of life and love and the people who made his life. And he was at peace with his decision to leave us, to leave the pain. We all have a journey, he would say. He devoted those last days to saying farewells, and he intentionally said farewell, not goodbye. To the last, he was generous with his time. He shared with me the many emails, texts, videos, cards, and phone conversations from all who had reached out to him. And please know, all of you who had sent these, that he drew great comfort and felt great love and peace. It was fitting that Barry chose the spring equinox as the day of his passing into his next journey. Spring, a time of new beginnings. He leaves behind the love and laughter that has touched our hearts, and I am forever grateful for the warm hug of the family he wrapped me in, for the shared memories that knit us all together. He was my love, my life, but it is his joy of life that I try to capture daily. To live in the hearts we leave behind is not to die. We thank you all for being here today to celebrate a life well lived and to share your stories with Barry. And I now turn the podium over to Patty, the creative and amazing slideshow program mother to Barry's Mallory and Kelsey, and who has very kindly agreed to orchestrate this afternoon's program.
This is just my controlling nature.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
So I said to Teresa, I think I need something to stand on, and she said, "You're so clumsy, you're gonna fall off." So if I fall off, I just apologize in advance. So thank you, Maryann. Welcome to all of the fortunate people who are gathered here today, as it means you were lucky enough to have spent some time on this earth with Barry Gilson. My name is Patty Lee. I have the honor of being the MC for today's program. We've all come together today to celebrate the life of a very special man, a truly unique one. I was very fortunate to have been good friends with Barry for the past 42 years. He and I shared a closeness, a bond, a beautiful relationship that many would not understand or believe would be possible. Today, rather than having a traditional eulogy, we have representation from family, friends, and colleagues who will share their stories about Barry. This is mine. I met Barry in November 1980. We were introduced by Gay Folker, who is here today. Where's Gay? It was a quasi-blind date. My immediate impression was that he was so different from any man I'd ever met. He talked openly about his thoughts regarding the importance of women having a career and education. He loved to cook. He didn't watch Sunday morning football or really any sports at that time. I thought, he is truly a feminist male. The following week, Barry and I took a drive up to Shannon Falls. He marveled at the beauty surrounding us and how much he loved taking the scenic route. He was driving his Ford Thunderbird Town Landau coupe with the maroon velour interior. He called it Fred, and it represented living his dream. Some things truly never change. We were 22 and 23. We married in 1982 and bought our first home in Port Coquitlam with a 5-year, 19% mortgage, right next door to Mike and Leanne McKelgan, who are also here today. We had our first child, Mallory, in 1984. We were the model family until I fell in love. Okay, that kid's gotta go. It's okay. That's actually my grandnephew. We were the model family until I fell in love with the midwife who delivered our second daughter, Kelsey, in 1987. If you're wondering, the midwife is not here. We agreed that we had had our childhoods and we would work together as parents to ensure our daughters would have theirs. It is an understatement to say that I sent our lives, his life, into absolute chaos and a trajectory that none of us could have imagined. Yet here I stand today, together with Maryann, honoring this incredible man. It is a true testament of the man Barry was and continued to be throughout his life. We certainly had our ups and downs as we navigated through new relationships, busy careers, and shared parenting. Our unique blended family shared all of the annual holidays, piano lessons, dance recitals, multiple sports, dental, medical appointments, parent-teacher meetings, send-offs and homecomings at the airport, graduations in Vancouver, Toronto, and London, England. There were also the thousands of dinners over the past 42 years celebrating all of life's occasions with our extended families. To this day, he is still Uncle Barry to my niece and nephews. Not only did we watch our daughters grow into strong, compassionate, kind, globe-trotting citizens of the world, Barry and I grew up together as well. I see his influence in our daughters every day. Now, it was an understatement to say that we had very opposite parenting styles and interests, but somehow our differences woven together created open-minded, diverse, socially aware, well-rounded human beings in Mallory and Kelsey. And our similarities provided a foundation of strength and confidence in them to pursue their dreams and life paths. It breaks my heart that he will not physically experience our soon-to-be grandchildren and they not have the direct influence of their amazing granddad. Barry, I miss our impromptu coffees and muffins whenever you were in town. I miss our belly laughs, especially when we were in a room full of people and we were the only ones laughing. I miss always knowing you were on this earth and always had my back as I had yours. I miss shamelessly bragging about our daughters together and having another person on this earth that loves them the same as I do. One night at 2 a.m, when I couldn't sleep, I watched an old clip of Sheba giving Sonny's eulogy. And she said she was heartbroken, and she just couldn't stop crying. And while I watched it, I couldn't stop crying, and I knew exactly how she felt. We know you didn't want to go. You had fought so long and so hard. You trusted you'd get through this disease somehow, as you'd always persevered and succeeded through your life. I remember when you had the thought that you might not prevail, and you told me you were scared, but you hid it so well. On your last day, as the consummate host you are, you chose the date, you arranged the guest list to ensure each of us had someone for support, and you quietly departed. Barry, I thank you for the past 42 years of love, kindness, connection, and laughter. I thank you for your greatest collaboration, your daughters, Mallory and Kelsey. You have always been an original, a truly one-of-a-kind man. Your presence and grace surrounds us. I will always love you, and I miss you every day. Thank you. Now, Barry's family from England were not able to attend, and we will be having a celebration in Thorne. However, his brother David has sent a video about his memories of Barry.
Well, afternoon Vancouver, and welcome from David over here across the pond in England. Obviously, I'm very sad I can't be with you guys today, but I just wanted to share a few thoughts from my time spent with Barry over the last 50 years, which seems quite incredible, really, because time just goes so fast. Yes, I am his younger brother, not an enigma. I am real. I'm sure he's mentioned me on a number of occasions, and as you guys probably never saw me, you wondered if I actually did genuinely exist, but yes, I do. I'm the person who shared our bedroom for 10 years, the first 10 years of my life. Barry and I shared a 6 foot by 6 foot bedroom in a northern mining town in the north of England. And when I think back, I'm not quite sure how we actually still managed to stay so close after I'm sure I got under his skin like you wouldn't believe. I did say to him a few times, so what was it like sharing a bedroom with a younger brother who's pretty much 10 years younger than you? Because to be honest, when he was 16 and he had a 16-year-old brother, I'm sure it wasn't very good. But he said, no, it was great. No, I really didn't mind it at all, and everything was fine. But what's really weird is that when he was 19 and actually had the opportunity to leave home, he went as far away from the north of England as he could possibly go, onto the south coast of England. And once he graduated from college and he'd finished his work placement, decided to travel thousands of miles away to Vancouver. So I'm not sure if he was being 100% truthful when he said that he didn't mind sharing a bedroom with his little brother. I think my thoughts of Barry are that he was well, he was just my big brother. He was always there for me. He always looked out for me. We always did things together. I remember him making model aeroplanes with me and showing me how to paint them and put on the decals and things like that. And we had a ceiling full of these little aeroplanes that were hanging by little bits of cotton in our tiny bedroom, as I mentioned, in which we slept on bunk beds. So Barry was on the bottom and I was kind of on the top. And I think most of the time we were okay. I'm sure every now and again I definitely did get under his skin, because I do remember him dragging me down from the top bunk on a few occasions and battering me until I squealed. But overall, no, he was pretty good. I remember him, showing me how to look after a garden. We actually had a kids patch in the back, in the backyard where we used to plant flowers and things like that, and that was pretty rubbish, to be honest. But he was always very patient. He always tried to help me, and likewise when we actually built a little fish pond together, and he did all that work. And again, I was his little helper. I was probably more of his gopher than his helper, to be honest. But I didn't mind it. I just enjoyed spending time with him, and it was fantastic. He introduced me to a lot of, actually I should not say introduced, I think it was more imposed his music on me. So Billy Joel and Elton John, Queen, Carole King, all of those things. I actually didn't really have much choice, because he was 10 years older than me and bigger than me and stronger than me. So kind of whatever he wanted, that's what happened. But 50 odd years later, I'm still listening to Elton John and Billy Joel and Carole King. So it kind of been all bad, can it? Not really. Because there's such a big age gap, we didn't really spend an awful lot of time together as a child. And he wasn't really the stereotypical working class northern boy, where most of us, when we got into our teens, we were playing football and rugby and going down the pub without our parents knowing and drinking way too much beer. Barry was more of the kind of who was into his music and his art and his drama and drinking Earl Grey tea. So most definitely not a stereotypical northern lad at all. I am, and I always have been. And yet, although Barry and I were in some respects polar opposites of each other, we always connected. I think that was the main thing. It didn't matter how much time we used to spend apart, or the fact that we lived thousands of miles away. The reality was that every time we got together, it was as though we'd all seen each other yesterday. It was weird. I know sometimes people say, that siblings have this bond. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But I genuinely believe we did have a bond. And every time we got together, it was amazing. We just clicked. We had a really good time. And some people say, "Oh, were you close to your brother?" Because obviously most of the people in the UK, certainly people that I've grown up with, never really met Barry, because his life was in Vancouver. But yeah, we were really close. Very close right up to the end of his passing, and obviously it was very sad. But sometimes you've got to look back and say, well, actually, you know what, we were pretty lucky. There's a lot of siblings didn't have the relationship that we had, and it was a strange kind of relationship sometimes, but in a good way, if that makes sense. I mean, he always said that he had wanderlust when he was growing up, but I actually don't really think it was wanderlust at all. I just think that he knew that he was destined for a different life. I don't think he ever really felt that he fitted in the north of England. That wasn't him. And I said, drinking Earl Grey tea back in the 80s was kind of not what you did. I don't think it was so much that he had wanderlust. He just knew that there was something better for him out there. And after moving around a little bit, he settled in Vancouver, and Vancouver became his home. That's where his new family was and is, and all his friends are, his business, all his interests, and that's what he called home. Whenever you'd speak to him, he would always have a yearning for England and the UK. I know he used to watch a lot of period dramas about England and have a yearning to come back to the UK, but I think deep down he always knew that he fitted into North American life, and obviously particularly Vancouver. He just loved it there. So our relationship kind of went through three phases, I suppose. There was the period up to me being 10 where I was the little annoying brother, but he had a massive impact on me, which I don't think you realise that until you get a little bit older. He introduced me to squash. He introduced me to the piano. The piano I was terrible at, and he knew it. And at every opportunity, he used to play the piano just to make me feel really bad. But then at the same time, I used to beat him at squash, so we kind of evened itself out. And every opportunity we had, whether he was in the UK or I would come out to Vancouver, we would play squash. And he introduced me to racquetball, which I remember the very first time I played. I played with Barry and with Roger, and it was just great fun. I mean, he didn't mind losing to me because he kind of got used to it in sport. In terms of art and drama and everything else, Barry was Barry. He was just on a different level, and very knowledgeable and very passionate. And I think that was the main thing that I loved about Barry. He was passionate about everything he did, and he knew what he wanted to do, and he did it. And there was a period of about 10 years, between me being 10 and 20, where he was finding himself in Vancouver, and unfortunately, because of circumstance, we didn't really get to see an awful lot of each other, although we did keep in contact. And then when I graduated in 1989 and eventually found my way out to Vancouver for the very first time, he was like a little puppy dog. He really was. He was so excited that his little brother had eventually, after 13 years, found his way across the pond to Vancouver to see what kind of new life he'd created in the Shangri-La of Vancouver. And I got it. I understood what he felt about Vancouver. I mean, he was such a positive guy. I think that was one of the key things that nothing ever got him down, or certainly if it did, he never showed it. He was always very forgiving. He always liked to see the best in people. I'd like to think that's rubbed off on me a little bit too. He was always fun to be around. I think that's one of the lasting memories that I've got. It didn't matter what we did, what anyone else did. We always got on really well. We never had a cross word. We never had a falling out. And at least if we did, he kept it to himself. So that was good too. I think if there was ever a conflict, he would always be Switzerland. He never really chose sides. It was kind of like, hey, you guys just do what you got to do, and I'm going to be me, and that's the way it always was. So he was great. And yeah, he was. He certainly made a lasting impression on me. I remember that first time I came to Vancouver, as I just mentioned, and we got off the plane and we were jet lagged and we were absolutely exhausted. But he was so excited. The little Duracell bunny was going crazy, and he just wanted to show us everything. And I remember that night, we had to go around Stanley Park in the car, and it was cold and it was dark and it was miserable and it was raining, because according to Barry, it never rained in Vancouver. And I just remember just thinking, I just want to go to sleep. I'm just so tired. But he was like, no, we've got to do this. We've got to do this. We've got to have such a great time. And you know what? We did. And then we got home, and then he forced me to watch Amadeus for 3 hours into the early hours of the morning with jet lag. But Barry was just Barry. He was infectious. You kind of just went along with it, because you always knew you were going to have a good time. And during our the last 15 years, I was quite fortunate that we actually managed to spend an awful lot of time together. We met up a few times in the States, met up a few times in Canada, and every time we got together, we just had a brilliant time, whether it was in Las Vegas or in Santa Monica or wherever it happened to be. We just gelled. We always did. He tried to introduce me to the finer things in life, with galleries and museums and things like that, but wasn't really my thing. But it didn't really matter. We just kind of we just enjoyed spending time together. And even when we weren't able to meet face to face, then we'd talk on the phone, and sometimes we'd talk on the phone for hours. And it was brilliant. We really had a great time, and obviously it's very sad with his passing, and with what's happened in the world over the last couple of years. We didn't get a chance to see each other like we would have wanted to, and say goodbye properly. But I know at the end he was surrounded by everybody that that cared for him, and I take great comfort in that too. And to all you guys there, for you, Barry was a father, a husband, a work colleague, a friend, but to me he was just Barry. He was my big brother. And sadly missed, but never forgotten. So with that thought, I'll say goodbye from the UK. Take care now. Bye-bye.
We're now going to bring up Roger, who's going to say a few words.
Well, Patty told me I had 5 minutes, so after that I don't feel so bad.
I didn't tell David it was 5 minutes.
Obviously. So we're going to kind of get a kick out of this. I wrote this, obviously, before I got here today. And I said, as I write this, I'm praying to the speech gods that I'm not following Patty Lee. As it says, I am. Anyway, she's always a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best no matter what. So we're here today to celebrate the life of a man named Barry. To share memories of that someone that I befriended over 42 years ago. Now, to try and sum up his life in 5 minutes, of course, would be impossible. Absolutely impossible. And if the best line I ever heard from Patty was, I think it was his 60th birthday party. Probably a lot of you were already there. And her line was, Barry is a great man. And if you don't think so, just ask him. He'll tell you. And he would. He'd probably be all here until like midnight while he told you all about it. Anyway, to share those memories of someone that I befriended over 42 years ago, and over those years, as we worked together, as we worked together, played together, struggled together, through all those ups and downs of life, I came to consider him a true friend, that I befriended, and he became more than just a friend, but a true brother. I actually had no idea he was this popular. I might be lucky to get a dozen of my closest Facebook friends to show up for something like this. So I'm looking forward to hearing at least 87 news stories here today. In fact, I've already heard some pretty funny ones over here about him finagling his way into the Queen's Suite at the Empress Hotel? I like that one. Typical Barry. In fact, I think he did it with Maryann as well. Clever guy. Anyway, so here are a few of the stories from his first days from across the pond. We first met, we were wet behind the ears kids, with big egos, for sure for Barry anyways, and dreams. Training as management trainees, snipping off code dates on expired bread at 7-Eleven in Kitsilano. Yeah, that's not very good, is it? Back then, he was pretty big on himself. Okay, so nothing's changed there. A fake it till you make it, go big or go home kind of guy. I vividly remember him proudly showing off a brand new car to us all, with all the bells and whistles of the day, including back windows that popped open remotely with the pull of a handle. We all marveled at the feature very politely. Like I said, go big or go home Barry, and who's been mentioned before, quickly replaced that with a monstrous late 70s white Ford Thunderbird with all burgundy velour seats called Fred, although the car should have been red if that was the case, but okay. That car measured over 20 feet long. Almost as big as Mike's pickup truck. Now he was truly the man. He loved that car. Barry always liked to stand out in a crowd, whether it was his constantly changing hair color or a brand new mustard colored tracksuit. In fact, I think it was provided by David. In fact, I'm wearing one of Barry's more subdued jackets today from his massive wardrobe. Gets compliments even today. Barry's first work assignment was running a store in Richmond. He would call almost every day, telling me of all of his great accomplishments at his new store, and his goal of whipping his assistant manager, George, into shape. He saw the greatness in everyone, but alas, George would go on to disappoint almost every day. I imagined Barry cuffing poor hapless George behind the ears, just like Manuel from Faulty Towers. George never failed to disappoint, but Barry never stopped struggling. Ages are sticking together, sorry guys. It must have been tears. He was promoted to supervisor before me, of course. And on his first visit to my store, I came face to face with his strange fixation on bathroom cleanliness. I did not make the grade upon his scrupulous inspection, so on his next visit, I made sure to have on hand brand new scented soaps and linens. He gave me top marks despite the store being a bit of a dump. We've heard that he was a competitive fellow, and he truly was, and that's putting it mildly. As supervisory colleagues, we took up racquetball with a vengeance, battling it out week after week, and we invited our boss, Greg Ross, to play cutthroat. That's with 3 players playing all at once in the same court. It's very crowded. The rules stipulate if an opponent is in the way of you safely making your shot, which happens a lot in cutthroat, you yell, hinder, and a new serve is taken, and there's no penalty. Unfortunately for Greg, he found himself hindering Barry's brand new $250 kryptonite racket. With Greg cowering in the back corner and Barry, with his superior skills, need not call hinder, he took a mighty swipe that not only missed the ball completely, but absolutely nailed Greg's head. As we rushed off to the hospital, with Greg in tow, swaddled in towels, we yelled at reception, "Clean up on court 3." Greg refused to play Barry ever again. Barry was always looking to improve himself. He pressured me to check out a brand new fitness center. We met the owner, who was the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he insisted we take an introductory workout with him. This guy put us through our paces, and Barry was determined to give it his all. After fainting, collapsing on the gym floor, and coming to, he said to me, "That was the best workout of my life." We have to join. Too bad a month later the gym was converted to a ladies-only fitness center. Now you've all heard the phrase, behind every great man is a great woman, or women in Barry's case. Well, through his life, he built many businesses. In fact, I was trying to count them all up on the little eulogy we got on our tables. But through them all, no, actually, I think there were 6 or more, maybe counting. But through them all, he had my full support. But more importantly, he had the support of the women in his life. From his mom, Brenda, who couldn't be here today, to his first wife and forever friend, Patty, Allison, and beautiful Maryann, and accomplished children, Mallory, Kelsey, Ben and Ayrann, not to forget Ben, who's around here somewhere, my daughter and Barry's granddaughter, Amanda, sitting here today, my wife, Audrey, Leslie, and all the ladies in this room. In fact, I think I know all of them so far. I'm going to try to memorize them all. But anyways, here's to you. Every one of them gave something of themselves, shaping the Barry we came to know and love. From his amazing patience, I rarely saw him get mad, to awakening his creative side, his love of art, music, dance, and his family and friends here today. You've been all been rewarded by having Barry in your life. Barry was a giver. He couldn't help poor George. But in some ways, we've all benefited and will continue to benefit from having this great guy, my brother, in our lives. Now, I want to tell you that Barry is still with us. I know this, and I have irrefutable proof. Just 10 days ago, I got a Facebook friend request from Barry. So of course I accepted. Wouldn't you? Ever since then, I have been finding dimes everywhere, in the house, in the car, in the supermarket. I have heard many of you have us as well. I know this from these are from Barry. So look around here today. And if you find one, take it home as a gift from our friend Barry. I think it is appropriate to say, as St. Paddy's Day is just behind us in our rearview mirror, and as I drive his beloved Jag home, which is parked right out front, if you can believe it, I drove up, my daughter said, we'll never get a parking spot here. As I pulled up, Barry was holding a spot for us, we pulled right in. Anyways, it's right out there, and so as I drive his beloved Jag home, by the way, it's 4 inches longer than that white T-bird. Of course it is. The true measure of a man, of any man, is the length of, you guessed it, his car. Anyway, as I drive that beloved Jag home today, and with my brother sitting on my side, I say to him, may the road rise up to meet you, may the wind always be at your back, may the sun shine warm upon your face, the rains fall soft upon your fields, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. And with that, let's hear some more stories. Thank you.
We're now going to hear from Diana and Kim and Joanne from Red Design.
Hi everyone, I'm Diana, this is Kim and Joanne, and we worked with Barry at Red Design for decades, together. They're going to be my emotional support today. I'm going to try my best. There's a lot of hormones and stuff going through this. We're here to celebrate a very special person to us. Right before I joined Red, I was in a particular low point of my life. My ambition of design and just a talent was questioned. And you can't help being young and believe what people say. It took me over 8 months to find a job. Barry called, I was so ecstatic. I met with Joanne and Barry at the Alberni office, sitting there, and it was not an interview of any normal sort. It was just talking, and it was just different. And by the time I left, I wanted this job so much. Barry called a couple of days later, I got it, and I was beside myself. I was so young and so excited, but I didn't even realize how I hit the jackpot, like a lottery of life. Red is special. Barry created something really different, what he fostered. It was a learning environment. We cared about each other, became a family. Just little things that we did. Barry being English, we would have tea at 3 o'clock, not every day, but we had dessert, little, things. And he actually didn't even want to talk about work. He wanted to talk about us and what's happening around the world. And that was that team building, that connection that, we carry on today, that we call each other and see how we're doing. It was great. And that we always had a stash of Lady Earl Grey for him, just to make sure that we had it. It was a really nice place. Like, we worked hard, but we worked together as a team, and we solved problems as a team. One of the most whimsical thing that I can think of was Barry loved the piano, and he would play us out when it was time to go. We knew that once the piano started, it was our time to pack up and say goodbye. But how, it's so sweet. It's like, oh, okay, you get played out. For all of us, we share different memories of him. Joanne, dim sum, how Barry points with his middle finger every time in front of clients. For myself, it's just, to take the long way back to the office and go through Stanley Park. And like in the beginning, I felt a little weird, like I'm taking extra time, but he was right. It was just enjoying that little bit of life and what the city had to offer, and just enjoying the simplicity of it. And every time I drive through Stanley Park, I still think of him, and I tear up a little. For myself, he may have been my boss, but he was definitely my teacher, my mentor, and I'm gonna miss him. Miss him a lot. So wherever he is, we're hoping that there's water features. Thank you, push every job that we ever did. But I'm sure if there wasn't, he's gonna put one in.
Well, we were saying it was either going to be a water feature or a fireplace, so. We know there'll be something, but, you know, he's touched everybody's lives here, and I mean, just the breadth of his life and the quality of people that he has in his life says everything about him. I mean, it's been 30 years for me. I can't, as Roger said, you can't begin to possibly put that all together, but I remember, you know, how to learn to run like hell for an airplane, because the whole thing about getting to the check-in desk on time was sort of a vague concept. But I think we only missed one plane, but, you know, only one over the years. But it's just, I'm so still, I hear his voice in my head every day. You know, the good times, and just the things when we're on a project now, as I carry on with Red and things, and I find myself wanting to turn to him and tell him, but I do, and I'm sure he hears. So, you good? Okay. Thank you.
We're now going to hear from Meg and Kathleen, and they're going to talk about Burnaby Art Gallery and his art days.
Yeah, bring it up closer again. I'm really happy to be here with all Mary's friends and family, and to be on, like all of you. I could repeat what Roger said, what Patty said, what the girls have just said. I've forgotten my notes, or I've lost them somewhere. If someone who comes after me says what I'm about to say, will know what's happened. But Barry made me miss a flight. And I'll tell you that story a little bit later. But I met Barry through Meg Clark. Meg and I go back to Edmonton days. She wanted me to join the Burnaby Art Gallery board and took me out to the first meeting, highly praising this man who was the director, president of the board, Burnaby Art Gallery. And he lived up to all those things she said about him, believe it or not. We believe it. So that was 1998, and so 23 years of friendship was cemented mostly through that connection with Barry. All the qualities that Roger has said, I echo Roger wholeheartedly. His passion, our passion for the arts, I think, kept us together. But we did a number of, for a period of time, we had yearly birthday dinners. So 3 times a year we go out, always a classy place because of Barry. If Meg and I had chosen, we might have gone to, not McDonald's, but we would have chosen something a little less highfalutin. But Barry, no, class, right? Class act. Go big or go home, right, Roger? Go big or go home. And, sorry, no notes here. No. Sorry, no, she didn't read my notes. I think maybe I'll just tell you how Barry made me miss my flight. So we were doing a job in Edmonton, a small job, together. We stayed overnight, but someone had dropped us off at the airport in plenty of time for a flight. So we went to the lounge for a drink and some nibbles and to rehash the project and talk about new ideas and so forth. And probably had at least one drink. Barry got up to go check the flight monitor. He came back. He was Air Canada, I was WestJet. He said his was on time, but mine was 20 minutes delayed. So up he went off to his gate, and I took my time. I wasn't due. So I cleaned up, walked along towards my gate, and the airport was the last flight of the day. Airport was pretty much empty, and I heard someone calling my name. It was the lady at the gate. She said, "Where have you been? We've been calling you." And I said, "Well, I didn't hear it." I said, "My flight was delayed," and she said, "Who told you that?" I guess Barry had misread them. Obviously, he'd misread them on it. He would not have done that on purpose. But I missed that flight, so I had to stay overnight in an airport hotel and get an early one the next morning. There are lots of great stories about Barry and his very special ways. I really miss chats we had over projects, talking about his way of dealing with any kind of project. It always was amazing to me how he could overcome any obstacles that were in the way. He knew how to get around them. Sorry, I could go on and on. I won't because I've lost my notes. But I'm going to give this to Meg, and she's so carry on. Thank you, everyone.
Barry had a gift for friendship, meaningful, lasting friendship. We were friends for 27 years, and he left his creative magic throughout my home. I was pretty scared when I bought my condo, the first property I had ever bought on my own. I was recently divorced, recently had created a fundraising consultancy, recently moved to Vancouver. Big changes for someone who likes predictability. I think it's fair to say Barry wasn't interested in predictability, but I trusted his creative genius. So I bought the condo. Then I created a budget for the renovation. There wasn't much point in budgets with Barry. We whizzed through the first iteration, but scared as I was, on we went until I really, completely ran out of money. The kitchen was done and the overall space designed, so we left the old bathrooms and the master bedroom. Then I met Bill, and he decided he liked Barry's designs. I think he also liked me, but he was particularly interested. He moved in, and then he suggested we should finish Barry's work. I warned him, but he said he was used to budgets and ensuring they were followed. So he tracked the spreadsheets and the numbers. I think it made him feel that he was in charge. But of course, Barry knew how to work around that. One day, Bill was puzzling over a list of invoices. "Meg," he demanded, "did you approve the purchase of an $800 toilet brush?" And a $400 $400 soap dispenser. Don't be ridiculous, I replied. Toilet brushes are a few bucks. Your eyesight must be failing. I checked the invoice. I decided they must have put the decimal point in the wrong place. Bill called Barry. Barry was, of course, completely nonplussed, not at all concerned. He said, look, it's the Italian design, the same as your faucets. So when he ordered all the bathroom fixtures, he explained the bill, he ordered a few extras. For Barry, any contest between beautiful design and cost, design wins. The soap dish was still in its box, so that could be returned. But I had thrown out the box for the toilet brush, so the store wouldn't take it. But Barry was not only a design genius, he was an honorable man. He bought the toilet brush. Every wall, every shelf, every part of our living space reflects his creative genius. And I feel surrounded by his positive energy every day.
Now, we were going to hear from Bob Hunter today. He is the Regional Vice President of Milliken Design, but unfortunately, he has to attend an urgent meeting on Monday, and so he sent his words, and Teresa's going to speak them on his behalf.
You say toilet brush? No, that was Meg.
Okay, I have to start off with saying I forgot my glasses. But we'll be okay. These are Bob's words. There is much to celebrate when it comes to thinking about Barry, the life he led, the people he touched. I used to joke with him that he was one of the most complex, simple guys I had ever met. He was so much more than just a work friend, although that is how we met. I met Barry in 1990, near the start of my career as a salesperson. He quickly became a good friend, a confidant, and one of two mentors in my life that I cared for deeply, and he knew it. There was nothing we could not talk about and share with each other. I was privileged to call him my friend, and I know I was his too. Please accept my apologies for not being able to be there with you. Although that might free up the tissue that I know I would be using, there is rarely a week that goes by that I don't think of Barry, and I miss him very much.
These are Bob's words.
It just so happens I miss Barry too. I have had the pleasure of meeting his daughters a few times over the years. One of the many things we have in common is he was an extremely proud father and spoke highly of them every time we were together. My heart, my hopes go out to his family. With much respect and a big hug, I remain forever grateful to have had Barry in my life.
We'll now hear from Donald Yen.
My name is Donald Yen, and for the last 20 years, I've had the pleasure to be able to call Barry a creative collaborator, a professional colleague, an insightful business advisor, a mentor of high culture, a trusting travel companion, but most of all, a dear friend. Under each of these categories, I have many Barry stories, of which I could go on for hours. But I first met Barry back in 2002 when a good friend asked me to join an NGO called the BC Guangdong Business Council and its sister organization, the Vancouver Guangzhou Friendship Society. It was quite a fun and very eclectic group. Colleen McGinnis over there would know who I'm talking about. But we were all passionate about sustainability and the emerging green building industry. Barry, of course, led that passion, and he was one of the city's very first in the city to be LEED accredited, which was a big deal to be at that point. So Barry just stood out all the time. My very first impression of Barry was one of being the most kind and considerate person with a refined sense of his gentlemanly polish. Always doing the things in that Barry style. You know that style. I don't think any of us, all of us know that style that we're talking about. But when you were in his company, you were always well attended to. And in the most sincere and classy way. Nobody could do it the way Barry did. I recall when we were in his Alberni Street apartment, which also served as his office for his staff at Red over there, he would often host our meetings. And when he hosted a meeting, it was not like a typical business meeting, right? This was, you felt you were in, having high tea or some fancy dinner at the finest of hotels. I mean, he took business meetings to a whole other level, absolutely. And when it came to travel, Barry didn't make me late for a plane, by the way. But I'll tell you what, okay. Barry and I shared quite a few adventures. On one of our trips to China, we did a little side trip. On more than one occasion, Barry really showed me he was a trusting travel companion. And when I say trusting, boy, I think it's really the sense of the word. On one of our BC Guangdong exchange missions, the two of us decided to fly up to Shanghai on a side trip, just the two of us, where we stayed in a hotel close to the famous Bund. If everyone knows the Shanghai, the big famous river area there, the walkways. And we stayed in a hotel that was close to that street and the famous Peace Hotel that's around there. So close that we can see the Bund over this walkable bridge from our hotel. So we decided to go for a walk. This was at night, okay? So, as we walked out of the hotel, we took a few wrong turns and ended up in actually a really sketchy, very scary neighborhood at that time. So if you can imagine, there was no street lights. This is in Shanghai. Very few and no cars in that particular neighborhood. I think they were slating this whole area to be demolished. I think that was probably it. And really no people, but just empty black buildings around, right? So we were lost in this vast neighborhood. Okay. And so being lost in a city of 20 million people, it's really kind of all. So I think between us, the thoughts of sort of being kidnapped or organ harvested or those kind of things were racing through our minds, both Barry and myself. Well, and we even were able to flag the one car down that actually did stop. It was a taxi. The taxi immediately rolled down the windows and said, we're not taking you anywhere. We just could not have any luck getting back to the hotel. And remember, this was a day of, we had no GPS. This was the day of the iPhone 3. Remember how great that phone was? And I didn't speak any Mandarin, so it didn't help there. But to Barry's credit, he stayed calm, very calm. And as it turned out, as you can see, we made it back, right? Organs and all of that. But we never did walk the pup. So. But through the years, my wife Nancy and I very much enjoyed regular evenings out with Barry and Maryann, going out to dinner in the Opera. And in the beginning, Nancy and I knew absolutely nothing about opera. But however, Barry was very patient with us. And although through Barry's excitement and passion and his infectious enthusiasm, we too saw the deeper meanings and appreciation of opera as a cultural art form. So thank you, Barry, and thank you, Maryann. We thank you so much for that. But Barry's legacy is long and lasting. He's a man for whom we are all richer for knowing. And to this day, I continue to work with the Red Team, Joanne over there and her team. Barry is an inspirational example to all, because I think above all, we know he loved his partner, Maryann, and his entire family. And that was inspiration to all of us. So thank you, Barry. We appreciate you.
We are now going to hear a poem for Barry by Brian.
Who's over here?
Thank you.
Speeches here as well.
Maybe there's
This one's fine. I was really honoured when Maryann asked me to write a poem for Barry, because I don't really write poems, I write doggerel. I mean, it's not classy enough to be called a poem. And I thought, am I going to get away with this? What would Barry say? And I think what he'd say is, go for it, mate. So I'm going to take Barry's blessing and go for it. So this is my ode to Barry. Here's to you, Barry, old son. You went on quite a ride. And when life gave you challenges, you took them in your stride. Okay, sometimes you stubbed your toe, which almost made you trip. But you stayed up upon your feet and kept aboard the ship. To me, you seem to do so much, your business and the arts. And you accomplished oh so much with all those moving parts. And you have left a legacy in metal and in flesh. I know that you were proud of both, but valued metal less. You and Michael started with car parts and bits of paint, but then you got a budget and you threw aside restraint. You both allowed your thoughts to soar, allowed yourselves to dream. Each of you a separate part. Together, the dream team. To educate your daughters was a task you did not shirk. I know that your ambition was to see them both at work. That's true. You also played piano, told good stories, did design. A man of some accomplishment. Where did you find the time? When you'd been in the kitchen, the time, it was not wasted. The meals that you prepared for us, among the best I've tasted. So let our memory remain with Barry in his prime. His humor and his sense of fun, and mimicry divine. For when he spoke of Leonard Woods, he'd do the accent too. And when he started, well, my boy, pure joy to hear it through. Of all my memories of him and all the things he's done, of things I hold most dear to me, the well, my boys, the one. Thank you.
So many of you in the room, I don't know you yet, but if we should see one another passing in the street, you just have to say, you are a friend of Barry's. I'm Michael Nicoll Yahgulanass, and I'm here with my darling wife, Lynette. I come from a lineage far to the north of here, and my connection to this place is we are the family that made a peace treaty with the Salish a long time before there was a Canada. And it's memorialized in those two mountains, which we commonly call the Lines, after the British claim to this place. But it's actually the two sisters. And it's the connection of family friendship between Haida and Salish that put an end to our nasty little disagreements. I want to speak to the Salish relatives of this place. Only a few hundred meters from here, they were forcibly removed by unsettled Canadians and forced to move to the North Shore. No, I don't think there's any one of us in this room that would agree with such a thing today. And let's find opportunities in our life to settle these strange and difficult things that have happened in our name. Barry was a teacher of how to settle unsettled things. And it's just like him to pick his day of transformation a year ago and to have us gathered here today at the time when the seasons are turning. The northern hemisphere is turning its face to the sun. The mountains are being warmed. The huckleberry leaves are opening up, giving us the same pink color of a newborn baby suckling on its mother's breast. What a wonderful time this is of transformation. And thank you to Barry. It is a time of change and transformation. Everything we are and do and believe is subject to change. There is nothing that is impervious to change. The mountains are becoming the beaches. We're aging and we're all rushing towards the same place that Barry has gone ahead and laid a place for us. Change is constant. I was a perhaps, well, much younger artist when I followed my love, Lynette, to the city from Haida Gwaii, naive perhaps in the ways of the city, and I managed to meet Kathleen, and one day Kathleen said, maybe you should try to do more than just painting. And I said, I can't do that without somebody. And she introduced me to Barry. And as a result of that introduction, we did marvelous things, and I learned marvelous things, and I learned a bit more about this place. The people here. We built things. We collaborated on things. We dreamed together. We ate dim sum. We laughed. We trusted. And then one day I heard that Vancouver Opera, the Pacific Opera Victoria, wanted to do something based on a little book I had written called Flight of the Hummingbird. And again I said to the world, I said, I can't do this without somebody. I don't know this. I come from a small fishing village in the north, and our idea of song is much different than the idea of music here. I can't even read music. I don't know how to play an instrument. I've never had a music teacher, on and on. And Barry said, I know opera. And when he said that, I just said yes. Totally trusting this wonderful human being. And we had so much fun. We're working with Tom and Timothy and Glynis, who are here, and Maxime in Montreal, and I'm happy to say that that little opera that we played with is going to become something much larger now. And I think in the fullness of time it will be performed internationally. And that's Barry opening up so many horizons, so much change, so much good change. But we also need constants. We seek for stability and knowing. We ask this question of ourselves either with these words or in other words, and these are the words of Alan Lightman. Why is there something rather than nothing? And I've been thinking about this for these last few days. Why is there something rather than nothing? Barry, like all of us, like the very mountains, like the trees, like the huckleberry petals, we're made of the same things. We are one thing. We are a unique collection of atoms who have decided to ally themselves with other atoms and create these wonderful experiences called life. It's a passing thing. And when we pass each other on the street, we need to say hello. We need to love the huckleberry petals, the mountains, the sea, the strangers, the people we know. Because the transformation, the change that we're involved in will turn us into huckleberry petals one day, into mountains, into sands, into strange things we can't even comprehend because we are all one thing. And Barry knew that. He knew that somewhere deeply. And he was able to manifest that wonderful leadership, that blessing, that gentle kiss and embrace. How amazing that there was a Barry. How amazing that Jack did go up the hill. And that although Jill came tumbling down, she gave a child that was taken and loved by a community. And that was Barry. Loved by all of us. And look at that. How could we not love that? So if you see me on the street, just say, I'm a friend of Barry's. Thank you.
We now have the pleasure of watching a video that was arranged by the composer of Flight of the Hummingbird, Maxime Goulet, and it includes the stage director, Glenys Deschamps, the pianist Perry Lowe, and the soprano, Sarah Sheba.
My dear Barry, when I received your message, I felt very far, so I got the idea of making this short video and contacting a few people so that we can unite around the thing that we love and the thing that got us together in the first place. So with all my love, here it is.
Dearest Barry, no, this isn't a call for more dramaturgy. Rather, it's a reaching out with enormous love, enormous affection for a man that I'm privileged to have met, known too short a time, but a colleague, a friend, a creator, an artist that I've come to deeply admire and treasure every moment we've had together. I'd like to send you a poem by one of my favorite British writers, From My Island to Your Island home. And I hope that it brings you pleasure, and I hope it brings you solace. And know, Barry, you are deeply loved. This is from Houseman. It's called Fancy Nell. When lads were home from labour at Abden under Clee, a man would call his neighbour, and both would send for me. And where the light in lances across the mead was laid, there too the dances. I fetched my flute, played. Ours were idle pleasure, yet content were we, the young to wind the measures, the old to heed the air, and I to lift with playing from tree and tower and sleep, the light delaying and flute, the sun to sleep. We love you, Barry. Much love, Godspeed.
Dear Barry, on behalf of the Flight of the Hummingbird cast and crew, we wanted to send our gratitude for this beautiful opera you helped create, as well as your joyful energy backstage at so many of our shows.
Being able to share this opera with so many thousands of children last year was a huge gift for all of us that we're all grateful for. Just to be able to hear their delight at the costumes and the words and the sets every time, and to feel the impact of this important call to action to help the environment. We are all going to hold you very closely in our hearts as we hopefully share this piece with thousands more children and adults in years to come. So thank you very much, Barry.
Why does he, great spirit, bear ancient words filled flow? Tarry sand piped to the coast will challenge sea
We're now at the part of the program if anyone would like to come up and say a few words. I'm going to ask Phyllis and Al to come up first, who were the longtime neighbors of Maryann and Barry's up at their beautiful home in Seashell.
As Michael said, we are friends of Barry. We want to thank our hosts, Maryann, Kelsey, and Mallory, for this opportunity to honor and remember our friend and neighbor Barry Gilson. Many of you had the great good fortune to know Barry much longer than we did, since we only met Barry and Maryann when they bought their house across the road from us.
And I know what I'm about to say is going to sound like I stole Maryann's notes, but I didn't. Like you, we came to know Barry as a true Renaissance man. He was one of those special people that you're lucky enough to meet in your life. We remember Barry for his genuine curiosity, amazing range of skills and talent, generosity, sense of humor, and perhaps most of all, his obvious joy of living. He was a gracious and generous host, welcoming not only us, but our visiting family and friends. Conversations were always interesting and usually filled with laughter.
I'd like to share a treasured memory that is classic Barry. Barry loved beautiful things, but not simply to possess them himself. He shared his enjoyment. Some of you may remember when Barry got what he called the Queen's Wheels. He had only had the Jaguar a few days. He took us for a ride to show us all the car's many features. When we got back, in a typical Barry gesture, he handed me the keys and told me to take it for a spin up the highway. Barry met the world with joy. He was always looking for ways to share his joy. He didn't miss an opportunity to live for every moment given to him in this world. We owe it to Barry to find joy in living and to share that joy with others.
We miss him, and we know we will not see his like again. We are so fortunate to have Maryann as a friend and neighbor and as a link to our best memories of Barry. Thank you.
Now, do we have anybody else that would like to come up and say a few words? Or you may have written them on your little note card and saved them privately for Maryann. This is our neighbor Mike from 1982.
I'm back. This is how Patty's. I'm Mike McArthurGlen. My wife Leanne is over here, and we were friends and neighbors with Barry and Patty for a very long time in their very first house. I'm going to maybe give you a little different view of Barry and a little bit of a story here. Barry was special. He thought so. In fact, at times he thought he was a little superior. I always put it down to the accent. Well, we're in the backyard, and over the fence we're having a little conversation one morning, and Barry is in his backyard rearranging the rocks, which he did often. And he says, "Oh, I'm having the niece and nephew here today. I'm taking care of them." Great, he did that quite regularly. And niece and nephew over here somewhere. You are much smaller. And Barry says, "I'm having them over, but they've got chicken pox." Oh my God, no, that's so contagious. He says, "No, it's fine. No, Barry, that's really contagious. He says, no, I've grown up to an adult. I've never had a childhood disease.
Oh no.
I'm immune. And there it starts. So off you go, Barry, take care of the kids. The call comes 2 days later. I'm so sick. I can't get out of the house. I can't get out of the bed. I need to see the doctor. Can you take me over? Sure. So Barry, meet me at the front of the house and I'll drive you over to the doctor's. Now, we all know what Barry looked like 99% of the time. I'm sorry to shatter that for you. The door opens. There's Barry. Hair askew, hawk-covered face. Those scars were still there. I was there at the beginning of those scars. Pajamas. Bare feet and slippers. One leg of the pajamas was up over his calf. A great big bathrobe open, and he's sliding down the driveway, one little step at a time. He gets in the car, he doesn't even say anything, he just reclines. So I get him to the doctor's office, and I shuffle him in and shuffle him out afterwards and get him home. He survived, and we never spoke of that.
Is there anybody else that would like to share a few words? Just putting it out there. My brother. Yes, you do.
I'm Greg. This is Barry's effect on the family. All her friends, all your friends and fellow workers, but this is how he affected us. And apologies, Brian. Roses are red, violets are blue. Gee, Barry, I really miss you.
Can I use that?
Imagine just sort of dash. First memory of Barry. Went to my mom's place with Ann, who's now my wife. There was a stranger upstairs in the dining room, and I didn't say hello to him. I just walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge. Said to my mom, who's the guy in the living room? Oh, that's Patty's new boyfriend. I thought, wow, I thought he was gay. This is how I became. Patty worked at Beano's. She had all sorts of girl friends. I never met a boyfriend. And it was sort of understood. I think my sisters knew this too. We never said anything. But we just thought, okay, that's cool. We saw Patty maybe 3-4 weeks. My wife and I were down Club Med, played at the Carmen, and we were walking to the pool. And I saw this really hot, Oriental girl in a blue bikini.
This is not my thing.
Dark tan. I did a double take and said, Diane, is that Patty? And Diane looked at me, it's your sister. So we went over and said hi, and what are you doing down here? Did you go down with Barry?
No.
Okay. Yeah, no, so this is how, the thought process, this is weird, you're a singles club. Anywho, there's Barry in our living room, okay? So we had dinner, and, how are you? And he told me this fascinating story. I don't know if it was that night or later. How he left England at 19, traveled, the first place he worked, he went to Banff because he wanted to see the Rockies. And he lived in a basement in the hotel he worked in. And he had a bed, a rate, just like Spartan. I thought to myself, 19 years old, holy mackerel. what a brave thing to do. And I was so impressed. And then I was in the car business, all right? I sold cars and doing pretty good, but I got burnt out. And I started looking at what else I could do, and Barry generously said, I can get you a job at 7-Eleven. I said, well, what do you do there? He says, well, I'm a supervisor, and this is what I do. Are you interested? I said, oh, okay. And so I started with him, and that was the beginning of sort of my business discipline, just sort of smartening myself up, because I didn't want to let him down. And it was a tough 13 years. And Roger will know this. Those inspections were killers, all right? Shortage watches, everything. I remember one time, Barry came just to check my store in North Van. I have my own store now. And he did me a favor and walked around and said, this is where you have to get this huge list. And on the bottom of the list was say, scrape gum from the sidewalk. I went, fuck that. Are you kidding? No, you don't do it. You give somebody, your night shift guy to do it. All right? He said, oh, all right. So I gave my night shift guy to do it, and you have to understand, my night shift guy, unbeknownst to me, would close the store up at 2 o'clock in the morning and would reopen it at 6. There's never any business where, I can't remember that little community in North Van. Anyways, so I remember getting up, coming into work, you know, and Baird would be sitting on he was a very, very large man. And he tied together 2 milk crates, all right, and he was sitting on those milk crates and behind the counter. But the store looked immaculate, all right? Except the gum was not taken off the sidewalk. So I thought, oh geez, no, I've got 10 o'clock they're coming, it's 7 now, it's 6:30 now. All right, Baird, you're going home. All right. Baird got up, he left, and I got out there with my scraper, and I was scraping and got it, you know, what I thought was pretty good. And it passed. I got 100%, it was my first inspection. If you failed 3 inspections, you were knocked down from the store manager, you lost your, what was the jacket they gave us? That special jacket, the red jacket. Oh, you live for that red jacket. So anyways, that was the beginning of sort of like becoming disciplined, like realizing, you know, I just can't sort of goof off. I'm 20-something years old, and I'm going to get married, and I had to have a real job, and this is what 7-Eleven did. And again, it was from that, I opened my own business. I had a couple of businesses. He taught me the stock market. All right, thank you, Barry. I've done pretty good. And, you know, and I think I gave something back to Barry. We were sitting around at dinner, and it was a summertime. I'll never forget this. I was wearing a tank top, and Barry was staring at me. And I don't know if my sister remembered this. He kept staring at me and staring at me. And I said, what's wrong? He says, what are those bumps on your shoulder? I said, what do you mean bumps on my shoulder? He said, your shoulders go like this. Are you okay? What happened to your shoulders? I said, those are delts. I said, how do you get them? He said, you exercise. You lift weights. And he said, oh. So I think that was sort of what I gave back to him, because right after that, he joined the fitness club. So I thought, oh, way to go. So Barry, he influenced and he made our family better. Jeez. Sorry. My mom loved him. And my mom was very special to all of us. She said, Patty really caught a good one. And Patty and Mom said, I thought she was, you know. What was that Chinese word for gay?
I have no idea. He's embellishing that.
She thought, you know. So anyways. Now this story, this part of my remembrance is a bit, when Patty fell in love with her midwife. We had our first home, we were, you know, in Burnaby, a little tiny thing. And we got a call. I mean, no, it was a knocking on the door, like really late. And I'm like, who the heck is that? It was Barry.
Okay, I think it's time to
Okay.
I don't know what the story is, but we're going to stop it. No, it's okay. You just go sit down. And I believe I will have full edit on the video. Is there anything else you would like to say? Come on. Bring it down. Where's your speech?
I don't have a speech, but this is a bit carry on from yours, Greg. So I want to explain how I know Barry and how he influenced also my life. But today when we arrived and we were setting up and getting everything organized, one of the organizers came up to me and said, "Oh, are you family? How do you know Barry?" And I hesitated for a moment, not knowing this person. And I said, well, I'm Barry's children's, I'm their stepmother. And she said, oh, I met your husband. And I said, well, I'm married to Barry's first wife. And so I wait a second, I know the penny's gonna drop, and then it's, oh, yes, okay. Off she goes. And I know what's going to follow next. I know somebody's going to come to see who this person is. So I wait just a heartbeat, and there comes someone. And this is how they came out. But that shows just how lovely Barry was, because he loved me and he brought more people into my life, Maryann, her family, and it grew my heart more. I have Pam and Kelsey and Mallory and their partners, and and Barry's very strong values of being open and caring. I get to share that forever with his family and everybody that he loved. And that's a huge blessing to me. And I also just want to say, Barry just showed me how gentle and loving he was, but also how brave he was. And I saw that a year ago when he chose to stop his life, and I got to see just what bravery looked like as well. And my heart just will always be open because of him.
I'm now going to turn this over to our daughters, Mallory and Kelsey, who are going to speak about their amazing father.
Don't fall off.
It was a big mistake to go after everyone else. Our dad was an extraordinary man. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you on the first day of spring, a day of significance for our dad. It is extremely heartwarming to hear everyone's fondest memories and to feel the love in this room centered around a man who believed in the strength of relationships and the importance of creating a bond with anybody who he had the pleasure of encountering in his life. After looking around at each and every one of you, it is clear how many connections he has formed and how many lives he has changed to bring all of us together in one space.
For instance, there's our mom, his first wife, and our stepmother, Allison, his second wife, and then Maryann, of course, the third love of his life. Following that, we have mom's wife, Teresa, and mom's side of the family. Allison and her family, including our sister Pam, not to forget Peter and Paul, who couldn't be here today, and then Maryann and her family, including her children, Ben and Ayrann, who, although we met much later in life, are now family to us as well. Dad was a testament to how the heart can never be too full, but we'll just keep expanding to let more and more people in. This is indeed the case with our large blended family. Dad himself said, "The relationship that we all enjoy with our multiple extended families is phenomenal and quite unique. How wonderful that we all get along so well. We are very lucky." It is important to Dad to have everyone get along, and although Kelsey and I were raised in 2 households, we always felt that we were able to experience the best of both worlds.
Dad raised us in a beautiful household. Despite being full of 5 children, everything was immaculate. Plush white carpets, white couches, marble dining table and weekly fresh cut flowers. We would wake up in the morning to the sound of classical music drifting through the house, or to the sound of Dad himself tinkling the ivories on his prized grand piano. Of course, it didn't matter what time in the morning it was. Table manners and etiquette were very important to Dad. No elbows, no slouching, no hats. Chew with your mouth closed, eat everything on your plate, even the spaghetti squash that you so despise. But after all, we were practicing to soon have breakfast with the Queen. Actually, when we asked him what the scariest moment from his childhood was, he said that his first thought after birth was, "Arg! Where am I? This is not the palace. Put me back in."
Dad was always calm and never raised his voice. The only time we knew that he was especially angry at us was when he swore under his breath. We must have done something especially bad. He was known to wash one's mouth out with soap. Besides that, he didn't really have a lot of childhood rules. It was more about being punctual, presentable, responsible, polite, and eat your bacon with a knife and fork. There was one time when I came back to Dad's after being grounded at Mom's, and Dad let me go out. When Mom found out, she was furious, and Dad's response was, "What, they can't go out when they're grounded?"
Dad loved singing and dancing and making us laugh with his funny faces. We would sometimes find him practicing in the bathroom mirrors. We would always have family sing-alongs at bedtime, and Dad would dance on demand whenever we asked him to. He insisted to fill our lives with culture, music, and experiences. We went to countless museums, art galleries, musicals, and plays, and although we may not have appreciated it as much as when we were children, it really instilled a love of the arts in us into our adult years.
Dad loved to travel and would take us on trips as much as he could. The 7 of us even went to Disneyland twice. The first time, we all ended up being riddled with chicken pox on the long drive to California. Our main memory from that trip was standing up half naked in the back of our family station wagon, slathered in chamomile lotion. Dad graciously decided to take us again soon after, chicken pox free, but the second time we flew. Dad was talented in the kitchen, taught by the chef of the Queen Mother himself. Presentation was key. Ask our mom, who once made a dinner of chicken, mashed potatoes, and cauliflower, and was reprimanded for having no color on the plate. Every dish wasn't complete without a fresh sprig of rosemary pulled from your own garden to garnish.
Even in the last few months, when food didn't agree with Dad as much, he kept up his refined tastes and particular palate. One morning, he requested a croissant with jam on one side and butter on the other, complete with a wet egg. Yes, a wet egg. Elated that he had an appetite, we rushed up to the kitchen to create this interesting concoction. Excited to present this masterpiece of the perfect wet egg, we brought it down to him, for his only remark was, "You didn't cut it in half?" After that, we were all scrambling for a knife before he said it was too cold.
Dad raised us in a very open and honest household. In Dad's words, we're a very transparent family and not one to hold secrets from each other. We were encouraged to talk about anything, and nothing was ever off limits for discussion. One of Dad's favorite topics was our relationships. He would always ask pressing questions. Are you happy? Do you see a future with this person? What are their life goals? These questions were not only reserved for us. Dad was open to talk to anybody about anything, and not one to stay out of people's business, if he thought that what he had to say would help them in some way. When we were young and a religious group knocked on the door to try to convert Dad, he would invite them in and try to enlighten them himself. Dad was always open to put his networking to good use and to provide opportunities to others whenever possible. He was the perfect example of how just giving a little bit of one's time and energy can change someone else's life. When my friends Sheba and Julia were both fresh out of law school, it was Dad who introduced them to their first contacts and consequently helped them get their first jobs. When my friend Tammy really wanted to go away to university, to Toronto University, but her mom wouldn't allow it because she couldn't bear the thought of her being so far away, it was Dad who convinced her mom otherwise.
When my friend Melanie needed a place to complete her externship for Dad's design school, I asked Dad if she could work at Red for 6 weeks, and without hesitation, he agreed. Dad also ensured to always give Ed business advice at every encounter, whether he liked it or not. When many people may not care or be bothered to take the time, Dad always would. Dad was so generous. For a period of time, I lived with him in his downtown condo. He generously offered the master suite, complete with bidet, for me, even though I only stayed during breaks from uni. He thought an Asian theme would be fitting. So he painted a red accent wall with a large fan above the bed and wall hangings. It was also in that apartment where he so generously shared his most intimate stories of when him and Maryann got together in front of the fireplace.
A warm, homey, and aesthetically designed environment is very important to Dad to give his daughters. He even flew to Toronto at the beginning of each school year to design and paint every time we changed accommodations.
Dad has such a competitive nature, and I'm sure that's where I got mine from. Every chance we got together, he would ensure we got a game of cards in. Queen of Sheba, partner whist. He would share his stories of how him and Granddad would hustle patrons at the local pub and tourneys. Our games always ended with wet faces from crying with laughter. Maryann once purposely smudged his glasses with her thumb, so he would quit poking fun at her after a particularly competitive night.
Dad always spoke fondly of England and of his family over there, although he referred to his hometown Thorne as the armpit of the earth. He was always excited to take us there. We have lovely memories of our time spent in his childhood home, where his mom, our nanny, would spoil us rotten. We would wake up to a breakfast complete with a tower of bacon and sausage, a platter of eggs, and a large pot of beans, and would look around at each other and at Dad and wonder, who else is eating? We visited numerous family members when we were in the UK, and it was so heartwarming that even though we couldn't see everyone all the time, we always felt a strong family bond. Both Kelsey and I had the pleasure of spending many years in London, me working and traveling, Kelsey attending vet school. We have Dad to thank for this, as he foresaw the importance that a British passport would have for Kelsey and I, which allowed us to travel, work, and study all over Europe.
Dad instilled the importance of education and to never stop learning. We would not have been where we are today without his support. I'm so happy he saw both of us walk across the stage with the graduating class in Toronto, and then myself in London only a few years ago. He once said, "But what is most important is what you choose to do, and that it brings you joy and a deep sense of fulfillment. It's vital to a healthy life that you wake up each morning and look forward to going to work. Embrace life and understand you can do anything if you put your mind to it." Dad shared his love of music. I wish we would have more duets on the piano. Even though he insisted on continuously playing from the large book of musicals, songs of which I never could hit the high notes on. He always would say, well, Allison would do such a grand job singing Christine. Despite my lack of soprano, you always encouraged a performance, and we had such joy in doing so.
In case anyone was wondering, I didn't just eat a big meal. I'm 25 weeks pregnant with identical twins, and Dad would have been over the moon. When we asked him what advice he would give about becoming a new parent, his answer was, earplugs, a nose pincher, patience, and stay calm. Our mom always said that when we were babies, our dad would hold us with a bored look on his face. When she'd ask what was wrong, he would say, "What am I supposed to do? I can't have a conversation with them." And there was that time when he was supposed to be holding my hand in Stanley Park, and instead I ended up waving to my parents from the window of a bus. Although taking care of babies wasn't Dad's forte, he sure was talented at raising young adults. There are so many things that we will ensure to pass on to our children that we learned from our dad.
To live spontaneously, to be open to adventure and new experiences, to strive for success, to always have fun and laugh uncontrollably. It keeps you young. It is important to embrace all different people and cultures, learn different languages, introduce yourself, and be open to meeting new people. Dad taught us that being a beacon of love and positivity could go a long way for yourself and for others. The energy you admit to the world will come back to you. He always made a point of remembering people's names and details about their lives. Dad loved frequenting restaurants, and he would make a point of knowing the names of all the staff. He would always treat people with respect and would make everyone around him feel special.
When it comes to his grandchildren, table manners will be of the utmost importance, of course. But I probably won't make them cut their bacon with a knife and fork. They will always have to be presentable and well-dressed. I'll try my best. Dad was all about quality over quantity. A good pair of shoes will last you a lifetime.
And I apologize for my informal choice of shoe. I had a bad sprain while surfing in Tofino last week. Dad would probably be shaking his head in distaste.
We will also need to introduce his grandkids to the arts, including some of his favorite musicals like Les Miserables, Oliver, The Sound of Music, The Phantom of the Opera, and of course his collaborated works of art around the province and his latest achievement, The Flight of the Hummingbird. Lastly, Dad believed that in life it is key to enjoy the moment, breathe in the fresh air, and take the scenic route.
So, to end with a message to our dad, you mean the world to us. We love you so much. You have touched the hearts of so many people and have brought joy to all you know. Your passion for life inspired us to live ours to the fullest and to enjoy every moment and every experience that life has to offer. You have enriched us with love, culture, and laughs.
It brings us much joy to think back on all the memories that we have created. Every moment that we've ever had with you is special because you made it that way. We are very happy for the life that we have shared. You are so loved. Thank you for being our dad.
So we're now going to hear a song from Maryann. It's called The Promise by Tracy Chapman, and I asked our dear friends, Leslie and Jill, to come and sing it for her.
If you wait for me, and I'll come for you. Although I've traveled far, I always hold a place for you in my heart. If you think of me, if you miss me once in a while, then I'll return to you. I'll return and fill that space in your heart. Remembering your touch, your kiss, your warm embrace, I'll find my way back to you if you'll be waiting. remembering your touch, your kiss, your warm embrace. I'll find my way back to you. Please say you'll be waiting. Together again. It feels so good to be in your arms. Where all my journeys end, we can make a promise. If it's one that you can keep, I vow to come for you. If you wait for me. And say you'll hold a place for me in your heart, a place for me in your heart, a place for me in your heart, a place for me in your heart.
Well, we're off in a motor car, 60 cops behind us, we don't know where we are. Well, a man round the corner, eating apple pie. Well, I asked him for a bit of it and he socked me in the eye. Well, I went to tell my mummy and my mummy wasn't in, so I kind of read a poker and I poked him on the chin.
Early morning yesterday, I was up before the dawn, and I really have enjoyed my stay, but I must be moving on. Like a king without a castle, like a queen without a throne, I'm an early morning lover, and I must be moving on. I believe in what you say is the undisputed truth, but I have to have things my own way to keep me in my youth. Like a ship without an anchor, like a slave without a chain, just the thought of those sweet ladies as they shiver through my veins. Now we're going shining, shining like brand new. I'll never look behind me, my troubles will be few.
Goodbye, stranger, it's been nice. Hope you find your paradise. Glad to see you, point of view. Hope your dreams will all come true. Goodbye, Mary, goodbye, Jayne. Will we ever meet again? Feel no sorrow, feel no shame. Come tomorrow, feel no pain.
Sweet devotion, it's not for me. Just give me motion, set me free. The land and the ocean, far away. Life I've chosen every day. So goodbye, Mary, goodbye, Jayne. Will we ever meet again? Now some they do and some they don't, and some you just can't tell. some they will and some they won't. But some it's just as well. You could laugh at my behavior, that'll never bother me. Say the devil is my savior, but I don't pay no heed. And I will go out shining, it's shining like brand new. I'll never look behind me, my troubles will be few.
Light, camera, action, action.
The Gilson story.
Light.
We are descendants from a string of bastards. There really was a Jack and Jill. In the year 1384, you come to join in. In the year 1384, in the village of Kiddiston, in Somerset. And one day Jack really did fall down and broke his neck. And Jill went tumbling after him. Gave birth to this boy and died 5 days after childbirth. What are you going to do with this story? You're going to
Keep on going.
When you become a politician, we're going to put it on film.
Scary.
Keep on going.
And so this child was left to be raised by all the villagers, and the villagers named this child Gilson. Evolved into that about 100 years later. So that's now 600 or 700 years ago. That's the origin of the name. And within a 10-mile radius of the village, it has the highest concentration of Gilsons within 10-mile radius of the village.
And they've all
So it's
got
quite
gills
amazing.
on them.
And big noses.
Feel
Everybody loves the things you do, from the way you talk to the way you move. Everybody here is watching you, 'cause you feel like home. You're like a dream come true. But if by chance you're here alone, can I have a moment before I go? 'Cause I've been by myself all night long, hoping you're someone I used to know. You look like a movie, you sound like a song. My God, this reminds me of when we were young. Let me photograph you in this light, in case it is the last time that we might be exactly like we were before we realized we're sad of getting old and made us restless. It was just like a movie, it was just like a song. I was so scared to face my fears. Nobody told me that you'd be here. And I swear you moved overseas. That's what you said when you left me. You still look like a movie, you still sound like a song. My God, this reminds me of when we were young.
Challenging? No. A battling. Battling a math quiz.
Close.
Oh, Barry, just give me a big kiss.
That's what you said when you left me. You still look like a movie, you still sound like a song. My God, this reminds me of when we were young.
This music.
You were doing so well. The special stuff.
What?
You were doing so well.
Drop the...
Good one. Like a movie, it was just like a song. When we were young, when we were young, when we were young, when we were young. It's hard to admit that everything just takes me back to when you were there. So when you were there, and a part of me keeps holding on, just in case it hasn't gone, 'cause I still care. Do you still care? It was just like a movie, it was just like a song. My God, this reminds me of when we were young. Exactly
Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Now we've got to hear this. This is going to be really bad.
Especially the high part.
She packed my bags last night, pre-flight. 0 hour, 9 a.m. And I'm gonna be high as a kite by then. I miss the earth so much, I miss my wife. It's lonely out in space on such a timeless flight.
We've got
Okay, please. Okay.
Wedding, wedding, wedding,
for
wedding.
love, true love.
A little bit of Princess
Do you remember?
Bride.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
I miss my wife. It's lonely out in space on such a timeless flight. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round.
The message of it is a show that is positioned in the context of climate change, as seen through the lens of a forest fire. It's also the power of one, it's a call to action, it's just the difference that one person can make in the world.
I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh no, no, no. I'm a rocket man, burning out his fuse out there at home. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh no, no, no. I'm a rocket man, burning out his fuse out there alone. Mars ain't the kind of place to raise your kids. In fact, it's cold as hell, and there's no one there to raise them. If you did, my job 5 days a week. A rocket man, a rocket man. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man that think I am at home. Oh no, 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 I'm a rocket man, burning out his fuse out here alone.
Words don't come easily, like forgive me, but you can say it, baby. Maybe can I help you tonight? Maybe if I told you the right words, ooh, at the right time, you'd be mine. I love you is all that you can say. Years gone by and still words don't come easily. Like I love you, but you can say, baby, baby, can I hold you tonight? Maybe if I told you the right words, ooh, at the right time, you'd be mine. Baby, can I hold you tonight? Maybe if I told you the right words, ooh, at the right time, you'd be mine.
That's nice. Remember you played that on the piano.
I did. Quite a bit, actually.
We'd always play that I Dream a Dream song, and I could never get high enough.
They're going down though.
Good. Nice.
I thank you on behalf of Maryann, Mallory, and Kelsey. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, yes. The bar is still open, and there are still cafes if you'd like to move into the